All right, so we're diving into some pretty heavy stuff today. The universe, humanity, consciousness, all that jazz. Looks like we've got physics and cosmology in the mix. Biology, too. And a little sprinkle of philosophy, just for kicks.
It's wild how these sources, really challenge how we see the world, you know? They kind of force you to look deeper, beyond the everyday stuff.
Yeah, totally. It's like peeling back the layers, right? And one of the first things that really jumped out at me was this idea that the universe, the whole thing, might actually be this massive information processing system.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing, right? But think about it. Information is like the core of everything. The laws of physics, the stuff that makes DNA, it's all encoded information.
So are we saying that the universe isn't just like matter and energy, but also this giant network of information?
Exactly. And that links to this idea of infocognition, which one of the sources dives into. It's this concept that information and thinking are intertwined.
Yeah.
Maybe consciousness comes from processing information at the most basic level.
Whoa, that's heavy. If consciousness is all about information processing, then where does that leave our own human brains? The source also talks about how our brains are prone to errors and biases.
Oh, for sure. Our brains evolved, To survive in a totally different world, we use mental shortcuts to get by, which are super efficient, but they can definitely lead us down the wrong path.
Is that like the Dunning-Kruger effect, where people think they're experts in stuff they know nothing about?
Yeah, exactly. It's a classic example of how our brains can totally blind us to our own limitations.
So how do we fight back? Become more aware of our biases and make smarter decisions.
Honestly, the first step is just admitting we all have them. Biases are everywhere. Then it's all about building those critical thinking skills. You gotta question everything and actively seek out different
It
perspectives.
sounds like a never-ending process.
Yeah.
Challenging your own beliefs all the time.
It is. But the more we do it, the more we can break free from the limits of our own minds and become better at dealing with a world that's, super complicated.
Okay, so we've got the universe as information and the whole human bias thing. Now let's talk about something that always blows my mind. Time. This source is basically saying time isn't what we think it is at all. It's not just this, straight line, always ticking at the same speed.
The crazy thing is this concept called time dilation, which comes from Einstein's theory of relativity. Time is actually relative, to your position and how fast you're moving.
Wait, hold on. Can you give me an example? I'm having trouble wrapping my head around this.
Okay, imagine your twin becomes an astronaut and blasts off near the speed of light. When they come back, they've aged less than you have. Time literally slowed down for them.
Whoa! Seriously. Time is different for people depending on how fast they're moving. That's insane. But how does that affect us in, everyday life?
Well, we're not exactly flying around at light speed, but even at normal speeds, time dilation matters, like for GPS satellites.
Really? So GPS wouldn't work if we didn't consider Einstein's theory.
Exactly. The satellites move fast enough that their clocks run a bit faster than clocks on Earth. If we didn't adjust for that, GPS would be, totally off.
Wow. So time dilation is a real thing, even if we don't see it directly. The source also talks about something called space-time. What exactly is that?
So Einstein's theory showed us that space and time aren't separate. They're woven together into this thing called space-time. And massive objects, like planets and stars, can warp it.
So are we saying gravity isn't really a force pulling things down? It's the, bend in space-time itself?
That's the mind-blowing part of general relativity. Picture a bowling ball on a trampoline. It creates a dip, right? Massive objects do the same thing to space-time, and that's what we feel as gravity.
Okay, that makes sense. It's crazy how these abstract ideas, actually have real-world effects.
Totally. And this whole space-time thing opens up so many possibilities. Black holes, wormholes, it's all out there.
We'll need a whole other deep dive for those. But sticking with our universe, the source material mentions some pretty mysterious stuff. Dark matter and dark energy.
Oh yeah, they're like the biggest puzzles in cosmology right now. We know they exist because of their gravity, how they affect galaxies and the whole universe expanding, but we can't actually see them.
So most of the universe is made of things we don't even understand. That's humbling.
That's the crazy truth. We've mapped the visible universe, but it's just a tiny part of what's out there.
And then it gets even crazier. The source mentions the possibility of a multiverse with, infinite universes and different laws of physics in each one.
Yeah, it's a wild idea that comes from some interpretations of quantum mechanics and cosmology. Still theoretical, but man, does it make you think.
Imagine universes where gravity works differently, time goes backward, maybe even different life forms. It's mind-boggling.
Totally. It just shows how much we don't know about reality. The universe is full of surprises. What seems impossible today might be proven true tomorrow.
Speaking of pushing the boundaries of what we know, the source also gets into the search for life beyond Earth.
And with telescopes like the James Webb, we can actually study the atmospheres of planets outside our solar system, looking for signs of life. It's incredible.
I'm fascinated by extremophiles, these creatures that can live in the harshest environments on Earth. It shows that life can exist in ways we never thought possible.
You got it. If life can thrive in boiling hot springs or at the bottom of the ocean, who knows what's out there on other planets?
Man, this is making me excited about the possibility of finding alien life. It feels like we're on the edge of something huge.
It's an amazing time to be alive, to witness all these discoveries happening.
Okay, we've covered so much already. The universe as information, our own biases, time and space, and even the search for alien life. But this is just the start, right?
Oh yeah, we've just scratched the surface. There's a ton more to explore in these sources. We'll keep diving in after a quick break. We were just talking about looking for life out there, right? But let's bring things back down to Earth for a minute. See what these sources say about how tech is changing humanity. You know, the future stuff.
Yeah, stuff like genetic engineering, AI, robots. It's like sci-fi becoming real. Pretty exciting, but kind of scary too, right?
Definitely. These technologies could solve, like, huge problems for humanity, but they also bring up these big ethical questions.
Like one source talks about how genetic engineering could, like, wipe out diseases. Imagine no more cancer, no Alzheimer's, no genetic disorders. It's almost, like, too good to be true.
Yeah, the possibilities are insane. But it also makes you wonder, what makes a trait desirable? Who decides? Does it create a world where some people are, like, genetically superior? Talk about inequality.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope for sure. Got to be super careful with that power. And it's not just genes, right? The source also talks about artificial intelligence changing society.
AI is already everywhere. You know, the algorithms that choose what you see online, self-driving cars. But as AI gets smarter, it makes you think about jobs disappearing, privacy, even what consciousness really is.
One source even mentions Neuralink, Elon Musk's company. They're working on brain-computer interfaces, like merging our minds with machines. Total cyberpunk stuff.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing tech. But the ethical questions are huge. What happens to your identity, your freedom, when the line between human and machine gets blurry?
It's like we're entering this new stage of evolution, driven by tech. Makes you wonder, where's it all going? Is there even a purpose to it all?
That's a question philosophers have been wrestling with forever. But these sources suggest purpose might not just be some philosophical idea. It might be a fundamental force shaping the universe itself.
Wait, really? How can purpose be a force? Like gravity or something?
Think about how life evolves. Organisms that are better adapted, you know, they survive, reproduce, pass on their genes. Their purpose, in a way, is to keep life going.
So purpose is like the engine behind natural selection.
Exactly. And one source uses this cool example, convergent evolution. Totally different species facing similar challenges end up with similar solutions, even if they're on completely different evolutionary paths.
Like nature has the best solution, and eventually different species figure it out through trial and error.
And that same idea might apply to how humans progress. We have this drive to improve, innovate, solve problems. Maybe that's a kind of purpose, you know, striving for something.
So our purpose is to keep pushing forward, keep evolving as a species.
It's a pretty cool thought, isn't it? And the source actually encourages us to figure out our own personal purpose, you know, connect it to growing as a person and making the world a better place.
Yeah, I like that. It's not just about us, it's about doing something bigger.
Right on. And that actually leads to another idea in these sources. Everything is connected.
Oh yeah, remind me what the sources said about that.
They're saying everything in the universe, from the tiniest particle to the biggest galaxy, it's all linked in ways we're just starting to understand.
Like a cosmic butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Everything we do, even think, has these ripples that affect everything else.
Exactly. We're not separate. We're all part of this massive interconnected web. And everything we do, even the small stuff, it has consequences that spread throughout the web.
Wow, that's profound. It makes you realize that we have a responsibility to, make choices that benefit the whole system, not just ourselves.
Absolutely. What we do matters for everyone and everything around us.
This is getting deep. We've got purpose as a driving force, everything being connected, and technology reshaping humanity. It's like we're building a whole new way of seeing reality.
We are. And this brings us to maybe the biggest mystery of all, consciousness.
Yeah, let's talk about that. It's something we all experience, but it's so hard to explain, you know? What is it really?
One source says it's like being aware of and responding to your surroundings, but that's just the start. What's going on in our brains that creates that feeling of what it's like to be alive?
It's like trying to explain seeing the color blue to someone who's been blind their whole life. You can describe the science, but you can't, like, make them feel the experience.
Exactly. Consciousness is subjective, which makes it super hard to study.
But didn't the sources talk about how consciousness evolved?
Yeah, they did. And they suggest that consciousness isn't just a human thing. It's probably on a spectrum, you know? Different species have different levels of consciousness.
So, like, a dog is conscious, but maybe not on the same level as a human.
That's the idea. And then, it makes you wonder, can artificial intelligence become conscious too?
We're already talking about merging our brains with computers, so AI consciousness doesn't seem that crazy anymore. But, like, what does that even mean? What if machines wake up?
There's a lot of debate about that right now. Some experts think conscious AI could be dangerous, even a threat to humanity. Others think it could be amazing, a new era of cooperation.
It's definitely something we got to think about carefully as we create this tech.
No doubt. The future of consciousness, both human and maybe artificial, is one of the biggest challenges we face as a species.
Before we pause, we're getting deep into consciousness and all. But there's another thing in these sources that, like, totally fascinates me. The whole time thing. It's like we think we know what time is, but these sources are saying it's way more complicated than we realize.
For sure. We think of time as this, like, straight line, past, present, future, boom. But Einstein's theory of relativity showed us that, whoa, time is relative. It bends and warps depending on gravity and how fast you're moving.
Yeah, we touched on time dilation earlier and the whole thing with GPS satellites. But what about this arrow of time idea? I saw that in the source material.
Ah, yeah, the arrow of time. One of the biggest mysteries in physics. Like most physics laws, they work the same forward and backward in time. But obviously that's not how we experience it, right? We remember the past, not the future. We get older, things fall apart. It's one way.
So why does time seem to only go one way? Is it just us, or is there something deeper going on?
That's the million-dollar question. Some physicists think it's connected to, like, thermodynamics and entropy. Entropy's all about disorder. And the second law of thermodynamics says entropy always increases in a closed system. Basically, things go from order to disorder.
So the arrow of time is because things are always getting messier.
It's a pretty neat idea, right? It could explain why time seems to only flow from a more organized past to a less organized future.
Whoa, that's mind-blowing. So time, this thing we take for granted, is actually tied to these, like, fundamental laws of physics and how the universe itself is changing.
Absolutely. And when we're thinking about time, it leads to another big question. What is matter, really? We think of it as, like, solid stuff, the building blocks, but these sources are suggesting there's more to it.
Yeah, like atoms. Those are the basic units of matter, right?
They are, but even atoms are made of smaller things, protons, neutrons, electrons, and those things behave in ways that are, well, super weird, according to quantum mechanics.
Quantum mechanics, man, that stuff always sounded like way over my head.
It's complicated, but basically at the super tiny level, the world acts totally different from what we see. Like, particles can be in multiple states at once. It's like a spinning coin, being both heads and tails until you actually stop it and look.
So are you saying just by looking at something, we change reality at the quantum level?
That's one of the crazy things about quantum mechanics. The observer and the thing being observed are, like, totally linked.
Whoa, this is making me question everything I thought I knew. If matter isn't as solid and predictable as we thought, what does that mean for, like, the whole universe?
It opens up all sorts of possibilities. Quantum entanglement, where particles are connected across huge distances. Quantum computing, which could change technology as we know it. It's wild.
It sounds like quantum mechanics is as revolutionary as Einstein's relativity stuff.
It really is. It shows how much we still have to learn about how reality works. But hey, let's not forget about energy. It's the other big player in the universe.
Yeah, energy's everywhere. It's what makes things happen.
Yeah.
From galaxies moving to our hearts beating.
Right, and one of the most fundamental laws of physics is that energy can't be created or destroyed, it just changes forms.
So, like, there's a set amount of energy in the universe, and it's constantly being recycled.
Basically, yeah. And that's important for everything, from the Big Bang to how the universe will end. It's all connected.
It makes you appreciate how everything is linked, energy flowing, connecting everything in the universe.
For sure. And that brings us back to space, which we usually think of as just emptiness, but it's actually a key part of the whole cosmic show.
Yeah, we talked about space-time and how gravity warps it. But is there more to space than just that?
There is. Space isn't static. It's constantly expanding, pushing galaxies away from each other over time.
So space is being warped by gravity. A&D, it's stretching and growing.
Exactly. And that expansion, it affects the future of the universe. Billions of years from now, it could lead to everything becoming cold, dark, and empty.
Man, it's both amazing and kind of scary to think about how vast and complex the universe is.
It really is. It makes you realize how much we still have to discover.
Which brings us back to that question. Is there life out there? Something that's always captured our imaginations?
We talked about the possibility of extraterrestrial life and how the James Webb Telescope could find signs of it on other planets. But what do you think? Are the chances we actually find something?
Hard to say for sure. But with billions of planets in our galaxy alone, and then countless galaxies in the universe, the odds seem pretty good that we're not alone, right?
It's almost too much to grasp. The idea that there could be other life out there in the vastness of space.
Finding proof of alien life would change everything. How we see our place in the universe, our whole worldview, it'd be huge.
It's both exciting and humbling. It makes you feel small, but also part of something much bigger. We've covered so much in this deep dive. Information, consciousness, time, space, the search for alien life. It's been mind-blowing.
It has. And through all of it, this idea of purpose keeps coming up. Maybe there's a deeper meaning, a reason for the universe and why we're here. Yeah, like you said, organisms are driven to survive and reproduce. Humans have this urge to progress, to learn, to innovate. It's like something's pushing us forward.
Right. And maybe that asks our purpose, to keep asking questions, pushing the limits of what we know, searching for truth and meaning in this incredible, mysterious universe.
That's beautiful. It makes me think this deep dive is just the start. There's always more to explore, more to learn.
Absolutely. And if you want to keep going deeper, check out the full book. It covers all these ideas in detail. You can find it on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books.
Totally recommend it. It's a journey worth taking. And to all our listeners, thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep seeking the truth.